Hello, everybody. First of all, I want to apologize for not being able to be with you at San Francisco, but I had some issues that prevented me to travel. Well, today I'm going to talk about the Inca Imperial landscape in the Cañete Chaupiyunga, Peru. Well, the Cañete Valley is located very close to Lima City, 150 kilometers south of Lima City. It's a very typical coastal valley with a very narrow area that gets wider as it reaches the sea. Uh, Here in this map in green, we can see the Cañete Chaupiyunga. This area was a very important ecological niche for Indian economy, but and specifically for Inca economy. The works of Maria Rostorowski in the Chillon River Chaupiyunga show the importance of the coca leaf fields had in this area, both for local communities and for the Inca. In addition, studies in the Moche Valley Chopiyunga shows that this area was important not only for the crops that grows here like coca leaf, maize, or peppers, but also because this area was an area of interaction between highland groups and with local highland groups and coastal groups. Well, we conducted several surveys in the Cañete Chaupiyunga, and we identified several Inca settlements as well as local settlements during the late Horizon. Based on two specific types of settlements, the Inca administrative facilities and the local leaders' compounds, we identified two different systems of territorial organization coexisting during the late Horizon in this area. The first of them is based on the on the Inca Imperial facility, administrative facilities. We identified that these settlements have clustered at different areas in the Chaupiyunga. Based on this, we model territorial units in which we believe the Inca divided the Chaupiyunga to administer it. On the same line, we use the local leaders' compounds, which are settlements in which local leaders dwell. We identify that they have a very distinctive dispersed pattern. So based on this, we modeled territorial units that we believe were controlled by specific local leaders. And we believe that these two different systems of territorial organization were complementary to each other. So rather than a contradiction. So while local leaders were doing some specific functions as imperial agents, the Inca administrative facilities were focusing on administering the agricultural surplus and the circulation of this surplus. This, of course, this construction of new settlements and remodelation of local settlements created an imperial landscape in the Cañete Chaupiyunga. But this creation of an imperial landscape doesn't restrict just to the administrative or economic sphere. It also includes the appropriation of sacred areas in the landscape. Here we have three views of the same mountain, which is called by locals Apu Airaya. This specific mountain, it's a very distinctive landmark in the territory. Was probably a sacred mountain for local people during the pre-Hispanic times. So I just wanted to understand the relationship this mountain had with other important settlements in the area. So what I find out is that Apoiraya has intervisibility relationships with two important settlements. The first one is Cachuy, which is a highland town known for being the home of the Señor de la Asunción de Cachuy, which is this image of an ascending Jesus Christ. It is very likely that the actual town of Cachuy was a sacred place before the arrival of the Spaniards. In addition, another important site that has an intervisibility relationship with Apoiraya is Muyucamac. Muyucamac, which is located over here. Muyucamac is located in the hilltop next to the mother town of Lunawana. It's formed by this main rock and a secondary rock that serve as a ceremonial table. It is important to notice that this hill is surrounded by four local leader compounds that probably were part of a same archaeological complex. Another important thing to notice is that this line, this intervisibility line between Cachuy, Apoiraya, and Muyucamac is basically a straight line that resembles a lot to what Tom Sudema calls the Seke system, which is this set of lines that connected sacred places around the Tahuantinsuyo. In addition, we have to notice also the presence of Cerro Cruz Blanca. Cerro Cruz Blanca is a religious center in the Cañete Chaupiyunga. It is a very interesting place because it has different plazas at different altitude levels, which is probably related to observations of the sun and moon movement. In addition, most of these plazas, or I mean, the majority of these plazas have a central ushnu, or a ceremonial pile for liquid offerings. In addition, it has a storage complex, but in this case, it's not what we are used. It's not what we are used for Inca architectonic standards. So they are not these squared deposits that we are used that we know for Inca architecture, but rather we have these terraces in which we can find these halls in which big ceramic vessels were put. Inside these vessels, there were food remains. Probably they were also storing liquids. We have also over here, we have a funerary sector, but the most interesting thing here in this settlement is the presence of these of three of these circular structures, which these small entrances they resemble a lot like to chulpas, but we couldn't find any evidence of human remains around it or inside them. And actually, we are not sure what was the function of these structures, but it's very interesting to notice that they appear in this religious center, and they resemble other kinds of structures we find in other areas of the Chaupiyunga. Another thing I wanted to show you is that there's a kind of interesting relationship regarding distances between Cachuy, Ayraya, and Muyuicamac. And we can see that the distance between Apuo, Ayraya, and Muyuicamac is like the double of the distance there is between Cachuy and Apuo, Ayraya. In the case of Cerro Cruz Blanca, it doesn't have intervisibility relationship with Ayraya, but I believe it's this religious center was was closely linked to the cult to Apu Ayraya. Because of this, I made this least cost path to understand the mobility people made to reach these settlements. So what it's interesting to notice is the distance between Cachuy and Cerro Cruz Blanca. It again is the double that the distance between Cerro Cruz Blanca and Muyuicamac. I don't believe this is just a coincidence. I believe this is evidence of the very complex planification the Inca have when they were deciding to establish an important site like Cerro Cruz Blanca in the valley. Like I mentioned before, we have also identified some distinctive structures in very different areas of the Chaupiyunga, and which we have called shrines. And there are two types of shrines. Type A is this. Like I said before, it's very similar to the one I show you for Cerro Cruz Blanca. Is these platforms that are located in the middle slope of the hill. And we have this rectangular or quadrangular structure with a very small entrance that was probably not meant for someone to get in, but probably meant for leaving offerings inside. And also some of them are linked to, are associated to these square deposits. Type B are these shrines we have identified that are made that have these stone slabs in the floor and surrounded by a very small wall around it. They are circular mostly, but we have also identified D-shaped ones and ellipsoid ones. To finish with my presentation, I will give you some of my conclusions. First is that the Chaupiyunga was a very important ecological niche for Inca economy. So we have evidence of construction of many new settlements in the Chaupiyunga. This is evidence for the importance this area had for the Inca interests. I believe the crops that can grow in this area were vital for Inca economy, and they wanted to control first they wanted to intensify the production of these agricultural goods, and also to make sure they were controlling the surplus and the circulation of that surplus. On the other hand, we have the local leaders or elites in the Cañete Chaupiyunga were empowered by the Inca and work as their imperial agents. Many of the local leaders' compounds have used Inca architectonic canons. There were many of these local elites were probably low-rank elites before the arrival of the Incas, and they were empowered by them, and as an exchange, they just managed to work as imperial agents for in the construction of this new imperial hierarchy. The creation of an imperial landscape occurred not only at the economic and administrative level, but also the symbolic and religious dimension. Yes, so basically the Inca wanted to control the economic production of this agricultural surplus, but also wanted to appropriate of the sacred landscape and of the important sacred landmarks in the territory. So they constructed this imperial landscape in which they not only controlled the economic sphere, but also the religious or symbolic sphere too. Finally, there seems to have been a major transformation of the Cañete Chaupiyunga in the transition from the late intermediate period and the late horizon. So yes, the evidence of there's evidence for massive remodelations in local settlements, and also the construction of many small but a lot of Inca settlements that created this imperial landscape. Well, I want to thank Dr. Alejandro Chu and Dr. Sonia Conini for organizing this symposium. I also want to thank National Science Foundation for the grant for doing this research, to Mr. Oscar Rivas for helped me a lot with the logistics of this research, and to Dr. Berman, Arkush, Everett, and of course Dr. Drennan for helping me in the construction of this research. And finally, if you have any questions about my research, please just send me an email. I will be very glad to answer your questions and to share with you more. Thanks.